So millions of people are going to wake up tomorrow morning. They'll, look around at their perfectly fine, completely safe lives, and they'll feel this overwhelming, almost um, primal urge to just burn the entire thing to the ground.
Yeah, it's a very real phenomenon.
Right. You open your eyes, you stare at the ceiling, and this heavy, suffocating thought just drops right onto your chest. Like, is this it? Is this really all my life is going to be?
And it is a profoundly disorienting experience. I mean, you haven't suffered a major tragedy, your basic needs are met, you're fine, yet your brain is flashing this massive warning light that something is fundamentally wrong with your existence.
Exactly. And that is why we are dedicating this deep dive to unpacking the actual mechanics of that exact feeling. We've gathered this really fascinating stack of research, articles, behavioral studies, just to figure out why we crave these massive life transformations.
Which is so important because, well, the urge to completely reinvent yourself is universal. Everyone feels it. But the actual execution of that reinvention is incredibly rare because most people completely misunderstand where that feeling comes from in the first place.
Right. And I'll admit, I always thought this desire to completely change your life was like a random explosion, a sudden system failure.
Oh, totally. A lot of people think that.
Yeah, like one day you're happily drinking your morning coffee, the next day you just want to quit your job, move into a cabin in the woods, and change your name.
Right.
But looking at the data we have for today, the idea of a sudden awakening is, well, it's a complete myth.
It is. The sudden explosion is an absolute illusion. A much more accurate way to look at it is it's like tectonic plates shifting beneath the surface of the Earth.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Yeah, because for years the pressure builds up entirely silently. You don't feel a single thing while the tension mounts. You only actually notice it when the earthquake finally hits.
When you're staring at the ceiling.
Exactly. So if we want to understand that slow, silent buildup of psychological pressure, we really have to examine the very first place the tension starts. We have to look at the neuroscience of your daily routine.
Okay, routine. But usually when we talk about routine, it's framed as a positive thing, right? Like productivity hacks, morning routines, optimizing your schedule.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
So how does a daily routine become the actual breeding ground for an existential crisis?
Well, to understand that, we need to look at how the brain manages energy. The human brain consumes an exorbitant amount of the body's calories. I mean, roughly 20%, just to keep the lights on.
20%, wow.
Right. And because thinking critically is biologically expensive, the brain has this evolutionary mandate to conserve energy whenever it possibly can.
Okay.
So it does this by taking any repetitive action and delegating it to this region near the base of the brain called the basal ganglia.
The basal ganglia. So if I'm understanding the sources right, when I first learned to drive to a new office, my brain is burning a ton of energy paying attention to the street signs, the traffic lights, all of that.
Yes, exactly.
But then after 6 months, I can pull into the parking lot and I don't even remember the drive. I'm just on autopilot.
That is the basal ganglia taking over. It has taken the complex sequence of your commute and turned it into an automatic, entirely subconscious program.
That's wild.
And it does this with everything. You wake up at a specific time, you follow a set sequence in the bathroom, you take the same route to work, you perform the same functional tasks at your job.
And then you come home to watch the exact same genres of television on the exact same spot on the couch.
Exactly.
Okay, wait, I have to jump in here because there is a massive paradox in the research. We know from basic evolutionary biology that human beings are wired to seek safety. We are evolved to avoid unnecessary risk, to seek secure shelter, to find a predictable environment. So if my brain successfully automates my life to conserve calories and I am completely safe, why does that eventually cause psychological distress?
It's a great question.
I mean, why do I wake up wanting to burn down a system that is technically operating at peak biological efficiency?
Because safety without adaptation is a prison.
A prison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we are wired for safety, but the human nervous system is also fundamentally wired for growth, novelty, and adaptation. When your routine becomes entirely fixed, you're no longer adapting to anything new. You are merely existing on a pre-written script.
So the brain is successfully conserving energy, but it has literally nothing to spend that saved energy on.
It goes on standby. When every single day is a mirror image of the last, your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain responsible for complex problem solving, personality expression, planning, is rarely engaged.
Because it doesn't need to be.
Right. You stop generating new neural pathways. That slow, silent drain of energy you feel over the years, that is the literal sensation of your neuroplasticity stalling.
Wow.
The routine seduces you with the promise of safety and efficiency, but it quietly locks the door behind you.
So if the brain is successfully conserving energy by putting us on autopilot, and that automation causes our potential to atrophy, it makes total sense that we eventually wall ourselves off.
Okay.
Which brings us to the psychological byproduct of that daily routine, which the sources call the comfort zone.
Right. So the routine is the physical sequence of actions you take. The comfort zone is the psychological boundary those actions create. It is a highly familiar environment where anxiety and stress are minimized to almost zero.
Let me try a different way to visualize this. Tell me if this tracks with the research. The comfort zone is kind of like a streaming service recommendation algorithm.
Okay, I like that.
Right. Because when you first set up your account, the platform shows you thousands of different movies across every possible genre. But you only click on, let's say, true crime documentaries and baking shows. After a year, the algorithm completely stops showing you anything else. It only feeds you what it already knows you will tolerate.
Yes, exactly.
It feels highly customized and completely safe. But eventually, you are trapped in an echo chamber of the exact same narrative over and over again. You're completely blind to the fact that an entire universe of cinema exists just outside your home screen.
That is a phenomenal way to understand the mechanism at play. The algorithm narrows your reality to protect you from the friction of searching for something new. But here is the profound danger of staying inside that psychological algorithm. Zero growth occurs there.
Zero.
None. Because when you are shielded from all friction, your brain's threat detection center, the amygdala, becomes hypersensitive to even the smallest variances.
Meaning, because I never experienced anything truly challenging, minor inconveniences start to feel like massive threats. Like a late email feels like an emergency.
Absolutely. You stop learning new skills, you stop engaging with people who hold different viewpoints, and your cognitive flexibility basically plummets. Eventually, your deeper sense of self recognizes that this extreme coziness is actually suffocating you.
The algorithm has become a cage.
Right. And that is the moment the earthquake hits. That is why you are staring at the ceiling, realizing that you have traded your vitality for predictability.
Okay, but if the only way out is to break the algorithm, how do we actually do that without reckless destruction? Because if I realize I am trapped in my comfort zone, my gut instinct is to just smash the TV.
Turn it down.
Exactly. I want to quit my job immediately, sell my car, force a massive disruption. Is that actually the solution?
The research strongly advises against reckless destruction
Huh.
because blowing up your life often creates trauma, not sustainable growth.
Makes sense.
The mechanism for breaking out of the comfort zone relies on targeted, deliberate exposure to fear. You have to actively force yourself to do specific things that terrify you, but in a highly controlled manner.
Okay, so what actually qualifies as targeted fear? Give me an example.
It involves choosing a pursuit where the outcome is uncertain and where failure is a very real possibility. So, public speaking is a classic example from the literature.
Ugh, horrifying.
Exactly. Or committing to learning a complex new language, or taking up a physical discipline like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, where you are guaranteed to be terrible at it initially.
I mean, just thinking about standing at a podium in front of 100 people makes my palms sweat and my heart rate spike.
And that physical reaction is exactly what you were looking for. That sweat, the elevated heart rate, the shallow breathing, those are the biological markers that your prefrontal cortex has been forced back online.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, your nervous system is recognizing that the old automatic routine is completely insufficient for this new environment. When you fumble through a speech or you struggle to conjugate verbs in a new language, you are actively dismantling the walls of the comfort zone.
You're proving to your nervous system that experiencing friction will not actually kill you. So you're manually overriding the basal ganglia and forcing the brain to spend those hoarded calories on building new neural pathways.
You are. But here's the catch. Deliberate exposure to discomfort is exhausting.
I bet.
Taking on a terrifying new skill requires a massive amount of cognitive fuel. You can force yourself to give one speech or attend one difficult class, but eventually the sheer caloric cost will drive you right back into the safety of your old routine.
Right, that makes sense. A single act of bravery isn't enough to sustain a totally new trajectory. If breaking a deeply ingrained habit requires continuous, exhausting effort, You need a completely different internal operating system to keep you going when the motivation inevitably fades.
Which is exactly why we have to examine the mechanism that dictates how you interpret failure and effort. And the research defines this operating system as your mindset.
Okay, mindset, which has become such a corporate buzzword, right? It's usually slapped onto motivational posters in break rooms. Let's look at the actual mechanics of it.
Yes, let's strip away the buzzword. From a behavioral science perspective, mindset is the underlying set of beliefs that dictate how you view your own fundamental qualities. The literature draws a really hard boundary between two frameworks, the fixed mindset and the growth mindset.
Yep.
With a fixed mindset, you believe your intelligence, your talents, and your personality traits are permanent, immutable characteristics.
So you view yourself as a finished product. You look at your life and conclude, I am just an anxious person, or I am simply not good at math, or I am just not the type of person who takes risks.
Exactly. And because you view those traits as carved in stone, any failure becomes an indictment of your core identity.
Oh, I see.
If you try public speaking and you stumble, your brain interprets that not as a lack of practice, but as undeniable proof that you are inherently flawed. The fixed mindset basically weaponizes failure to reinforce the walls of your comfort zone.
Whereas a growth mindset operates under the assumption that those core traits can be cultivated through effort over time. But let's look at the friction involved here. Because why is a growth mindset so incredibly difficult to adopt? Logically, everyone wants to believe they can improve, so why don't they?
The resistance comes directly from the ego and our evolutionary history. To adopt a growth mindset, you must first admit that you are currently inadequate at something.
You have to expose your incompetence.
Yes, and to our ancient brains, displaying incompetence within the tribe was dangerous. It could literally lead to social exile and death. So your amygdala interprets the vulnerability of learning something new as a literal threat to your survival.
That is fascinating.
Right. A growth mindset requires you to constantly override that biological alarm bell and reframe failure as data rather than a death sentence.
Okay, wait, I have to stop you there. I want to push back on this idea that internal mindset is the ultimate bottleneck. We know from extensive behavioral psychology that environment dictates behavior, right? If I want to quit smoking, sitting in a cigar lounge every night is a terrible idea. My environment is triggering the habit. So why wouldn't moving to a brand new city automatically force my brain to build a new, healthier routine? I mean, it seems like forcing a massive environmental change should bypass the need for all this grueling internal mindset work. Doesn't the new environment do the heavy lifting for you?
That is the allure of the geographical cure.
A geographical cure.
Yeah, it's the assumption that changing your zip code magically changes your psychology. But if you look at the longitudinal data of people who completely uproot their lives without addressing their internal operating system, the results are startlingly consistent.
Really?
Yeah, the environmental change only works temporarily.
Why, though? If I move to Paris tomorrow, everything is novel. The language, the streets, the food. My routine is completely destroyed by default.
Because your brain's desperate need for caloric efficiency makes it highly adaptive at rebuilding prisons. You move to Paris, and for the first 3 months, your prefrontal cortex is on fire. You are navigating new streets, you're speaking a new language. But who did you bring with you to Paris?
I brought myself. I brought my own internal algorithm.
You brought the exact same fixed mindset, the exact same avoidance of confrontation, the exact same negative self-talk.
Wow, okay.
Once the initial shock of the new environment wears off, your brain will quickly seek the path of least resistance. You will find a new coffee shop to visit at the exact same time every day. You will fall into a new, predictable job. You'll gravitate toward the same types of toxic relationships.
And within 2 years, you will have constructed a brand new comfort zone, just with French architecture.
Exactly. And you will find yourself lying on a different bed, staring at a different ceiling, feeling the exact same urge to escape.
So the environment changes, but the trap remains identical because the architect of the trap is my own mind.
The geographical cure is treating the symptom while ignoring the disease entirely. Genuine transformation cannot be outsourced to a new city or a new partner. The real work happens in the micro moments of your current life.
It happens in the mundane details.
It is the tedious, unglamorous work of intercepting your automatic behaviors before they take over. It's choosing to spend your Saturday morning learning a difficult skill instead of just defaulting to the couch.
Right.
It's catching yourself mid-sentence when you say, I'm just not good at this, and actively forcing yourself to append the word yet, like, I am not good at this yet. Those tiny, localized battles are where the growth mindset is actually forged.
So you don't rebuild your life by tearing down the walls of your house. You rebuild it by tearing down the walls of your habits.
Which requires immense patience. When you're staring at that ceiling, the desire is for immediate relief. But sustainable change is a gradual restructuring of how you interpret friction and effort.
Okay, if we synthesize everything we've pulled from the research today, it paints a very clear mechanical picture of how a human life transforms.
It does.
It doesn't start with a resignation letter or a one-way ticket to a new country. It begins with the grueling internal work of shifting from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset.
Exactly.
Upgrading that internal operating system is what finally gives you the psychological fuel required to dismantle the repetitive, energy-draining routines that your brain relies on. And by deliberately breaking those routines with targeted moments of fear and learning, you finally force your way out of the suffocating algorithm of your comfort zone.
They operate as a continuous feedback loop. Your mindset dictates your willingness to break your routine. Breaking your routine disrupts your comfort zone. And surviving outside your comfort zone provides the tangible proof your brain needs to solidify a growth mindset. You really cannot alter one component without engaging the other two.
This mechanism applies directly to anyone listening right now who feels that low-grade hum of dissatisfaction. If your everyday schedule feels like a trap, if you are driving the same commute, doing the same tasks, navigating the same social dynamics, and feeling your cognitive energy slowly drain away, remember that simply running away won't fix the underlying code.
No, it won't.
The tension you are feeling isn't a sign that your life is broken. It is a biological signal that your capacity for growth has outgrown your current environment.
You are functioning perfectly. Your nervous system is simply demanding adaptation. The question is how you choose to respond to that demand. Will you soothe it with just another layer of routine, or will you use it as momentum?
And we want to leave you with a final provocative challenge to explore on your own. Think critically about the life you are living right now today. Identify the specific areas where the friction has completely disappeared.
Right, where has your personal algorithm become just too narrow?
Is it the way you approach your career? Is it the identical conversations you have within your social circle over and over? Or is it how you spend your weekends just to recover from a job you tolerate?
Pinpoint the exact location of your deepest stagnation. Find the place where you are most protected from failure.
And once you identify that area, your challenge is to design one deliberate injection of fear this week. What is one small, highly uncomfortable action you can take to intentionally disrupt that specific routine? Because tomorrow morning when you wake up and you're lying there staring at the ceiling, feeling that heavy weight on your chest, you get to decide. Are you going to let the algorithm keep running, or are you finally going to wake up the system?